This is the small settlement of Zzyzx in the Mojave Desert. If you've ever driven from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, you've passed the turnoff for it and have probably wondered what's down there. What's down the road is a former religious health resort, which is now a desert research center. It has no affiliation with the Desert Research Institute in Reno, Nevada, but it does happen to have some relevance to those weather stations on Tickaboo Peak and in Badger Spring. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. The main purpose for this video, however, is to fill you in on a few things that have happened over the past few days.
What goes on out at Area 51 has been the subject of conjecture for years. Some educated guesses, other fanciful. One thing few would dispute is the need for security at the secret base.
But what if security methods included using civilian weather stations to keep track of folks well beyond the base perimeter? Well, tonight, the I-Team's Glenn Meek takes a look at allegations to that effect contained in a new online documentary.
On November 2nd, 2015, I released my big video on these Area 51 weather stations. On the same day, November 2nd, KLAS-TV broadcast a report on my video and the allegations I'm making. It's no coincidence that my video and the TV news report were released on the same day. I sent a preview of my video to the TV station. And the main reason I wanted to do that is to get someone else to photograph these video cameras. I'm just a crazy conspiracy theorist. No one's going to believe anything that I put in a video. By getting a mainstream TV station to photograph them, at least I can prove that they exist. My greatest worry during the 5.5 months I researched this story was that I would tip off DRI and these security cameras would just vanish overnight, because that can happen. And it can still happen now. If the heat gets too hot, the cameras can just go away. Even if the cameras do vanish, the underlying issues are still there.
The DRI says Campbell is completely off base, so to speak. The DRI is not a front for a U.S. Air Force intelligence gathering operation outside Area 51, says the DRI's Justin Brolio in a statement.
A TV station also has the power to ask DRI some questions and get some straight answers. And it's got a response from DRI. DRI has provided a written statement about my video. KLAS put it on their website, and I copied it to mine and responded to each of the points they make. Basically, they seem to be denying it. They're denying that these things are used for anything other than climate monitoring, and they just seem to be digging themselves a deeper hole. Interestingly, KLAS also asked the U.S. Air Force for a response.
The Air Force gave us this comment when we asked whether it used weather camera images for surveillance, and I'm quoting, "There are a variety of activities throughout Air Force's Nevada Test and Training Range complex. The Air Force uses many means to ensure the safety and security of military and non-military personnel, as well as the infrastructure protected within and around the withdrawn lands."
The Air Force basically isn't denying it. If really they had nothing to do with these weather stations, they would have said so. But since if they do have something to do with them, they're going to respond with this gobbledygook that they did respond with. So essentially you have the Air Force acknowledging that they might do something like this, and you have DRI denying it. So the Air Force is kind of leaving the DRI dangling in the wind. So what does Zzyzx have to do with Tickaboo Peak? Well, there's a little backstory here. This whole complex was built by a preacher, a radio evangelist named Curtis Springer, who initially applied for a mining claim from the BLM, but ended up using the land for a resort. Clearly this is a resort complex. This is the bathhouse here where healing waters were pumped out of the lake bed and supposedly would cure you of all your ailments. Now, he was ultimately evicted from this land because he was not using it for mining. He had filed a mining claim with the BLM, and there was no mining going on here. So ultimately the BLM evicted him because he had not been honest on his application to the BLM for this mining claim. This isn't much different from Tickaboo Peak. The DRI was not honest with the BLM when it applied for this weather station, because clearly the preponderance of evidence shows that the true intent was not monitoring the weather, but monitoring civilians on public land. Now, if they had stated that in their application, maybe they could have stated that it's a weather station, but it's also going to be used for monitoring of civilians approaching looking at Area 51. It ultimately might have been approved by BLM, but it would have been subjected to a whole different level of scrutiny. People might have objected to the security camera, whereas they might not have objected to the weather station. Now, Springer could have been doing some mining on some little corner of his property. He could have been extracting some soda salts in one of these many buildings here. And he could have pointed to that mining operation and saying, you see, my mining claim is valid because real mining is going on here. And BLM would have still evicted him because the preponderance of evidence shows that most of the buildings here, most of the activities here is concerned with a health resort and not concerned with mining, even if the real mining is taking place. And in Tickaboo, you have the same thing. You have real weather being collected from this weather station. But the preponderance of evidence still shows that it was placed here, that it was located at that precise spot, and it was placed here specifically to monitor civilians, which is a different purpose. Even with the real weather data, the application to BLM is fraudulent. Someone at DRI knows full well what these stations are for and lied to the BLM. They manipulated the BLM processes, just like Springer did. So they deserve to be evicted, just like Springer was.
Hello, folks. This is your old friend Curtis Springer coming to you direct from our beautiful new studios located in Zzyzx Community Church on the shores of beautiful Lake Tewendowee. And as founder and pastor of our church, I want to invite you and your loved ones to come and worship with us. Come with or without money and spend a day, a week, or a lifetime as you care to, and enjoy our beautiful 12,000-acre state that belongs to God.